Okay, everyone, welcome. It's another discussion time with our BRO participants for Premium. I'm Kai, and this is the rest of, well, some of the rest of WCC. Everyone say hi, I guess, wave your hand, do your thing. And yeah, I guess, how did it go, guys? How did it go? We'll start from the top, right? Derek, how did it go, man?
I got triple healed out of top four. That was very fun. Otherwise, like the whole experience over the three tournaments was amazing.
Good times, good times. Kelvin, what about you?
Oh, I triple healed against someone and got it to top four. But then I lost to Overtrigger the next game, so that was quite alright.
I guess that was karma, right?
I know, it comes full circle.
Mark, yeah, you?
Yeah, well, I won because of a overtrigger against someone. So that was good times.
Simon, are you going to join on the overtrigger hype?
No, sadly not. My over triggers happened during Swiss.
Okay.
The events were pretty smooth, yeah.
Okay, well, that's good to hear. Congrats. Solid.
Thank you.
What about you?
I got top 8 with Grand Blue, and then in my Night Myrtle matchup, my single only went to damage, so my entire game plan was done. And so then I just decided to try and bash him in the face, but it wasn't enough.
That's okay. That's life. That's life. Steven, what about you, man?
Yo, man, I lost in the finals. It was so brutal. I swung at the guy, and he hit an overtrigger damage, and my turn just ended.
And Toby, you're the last one. What about you, buddy?
Yeah, so myself and the caster as well, we have here Kai. We both unfortunately didn't top, but I had more chances to try, but unfortunately couldn't make it. The closest I was in AO, but apparently Nature had other plans when I had a massive power outage, when a massive unexpected storm came out of nowhere, but yeah, that's life, I guess.
I mean, at least it was a storm and not the drop bears, right?
Yeah. Not the
That is true.
Yeah. All right. Well, that is a quick rundown. Hopefully, you guys know everyone now. Guys, how was this format? To be honest, like, let's start from the beginning. The format change. This is actually a really different format from what we had before in Premium, because usually Premium goes on from like just building on stuff while having some stuff changing, stuff ban lists, and then new cards coming. But this was like an actual nuke. Everything got reset. And you could say it was one of the most diverse and unknown metagames that really popped up. So anyone would like to begin? How did you guys approach it? Was it scary? Was it scary, or was it fun and interesting? Anyone want to raise their hand to begin? Okay, there we go. Let's go for it.
I think prior to the Big Six being hit, we had a slight discussion on what is the next best thing. I remember once upon a time, one night, Solomon and I were talking, and we were like, watch all these bands and all these other subtle bands, and then Grand Blue and Pale Moon will be best deck. Get us now. In a reality where I actually get to see Grand Blue and Pale Moon become the best decks is pretty surreal. So I think we kind of based it on that. Well, at least I based it on that. And I think a lot of the world thought Grand Blue would be the best deck. And obviously with the hit to Periton and Trapezes, I think Pale Moon kind of fell off the wayside for a lot of people in their testing and stuff. So they didn't really expect that much. But there were other avenues that we could explore in that era. But like Grand Blue and Luard, I think everyone just kind of jump back to that subtle meta before, similar to 2019, where DI was prevalent and stuff like that. Ezel as well. I saw a lot of Ezels over the weekend, but yeah, that's kind of like the meta that a lot of people were anticipating.
Yeah, and if I want to just jump in, Grand Blue and Shadows was consistently the top two represented decks in every single region. I think the third one was kind of different. I think it was the same for AO
Kagero.
And Kagero, I think. But for EU, the third one was actually Genesis. So that was the main difference. So you can kind of see the main staples there. And, I guess EU.
Well,
EU's always the wonder kid, right?
If I may add, I mean, Overlord and Genesis sort of function similarly, so you can almost put them together. Um, but if you think about it, BSFO 21 wasn't that long ago. It was only like, mid-year. And between then and now, we had, the ban list, and we also have a few really big releases, just new strides, new V cards, which are very potent. And yeah, I think just the overall mix of things. And I have to think about maybe if I bring these decks, do I just install this to Mega Colony or like Link Joker? There are things like that. So yeah, you can never be too sure with your deck. And in the end, I see a lot of players just bring their best pet decks, and that turned out to be all right.
Just adding to that, it's like what Kelvin is saying. The time frame that we have, like I think even for within us, we feel like there wasn't too much time to do sufficient testing, right? Like
we had about 2 months,
a long
right?
time to kind of get to that conclusion of what we think the best deck is, and I would assume that it's the same for a lot of people. So, they might just end up going to their comfort pick or going to a deck that's established as a good deck from previous meta, instead of like experimenting and not knowing whether your deck is good enough or not.
Yeah, and just for that as well, like it was about 2 months from like the start of the ban list until basically BRO started, right? So that was the time frame we had in working about knowing what the ban list was and then trying to figure out the ideas coming from there. Whereas compared to before, when the last season with BSFO, our personal testing season and session started pretty much 5 months in advance. Like that's like more than double the amount of time that we had in sort of optimizing everything. And even like longer before that, like there hadn't been a ban list or anything like really unchanged for a while. We just like kept up to date with the current sets and everything, and everything sort of just kept rolling the same way. With this time, obviously, much less time and starting basically near from scratch, right? So we had just like so much more crunch time, and like it's been showcased and said by a lot of people, it's so much of a Wild West format at the moment, right? There's people with their 6-shooters looking everywhere, just like getting ready to pop anything and try whatever they can. And that even was the case initially for us, right? Like with our spreadsheet data and our testing and things, we tried to look at every clan, every avenue, seeing what worked, seeing what didn't, right? What could pop out the best result, and we had to spend a lot of time trying to crunch every single avenue, which was, obviously more difficult in comparison to the last season just because of the time frame.
Okay.
There was also just no data. Like, normally, it's not just about what's best deck, but also what people will actually bring. Because it could be that one deck is best deck, but no one knows, like with Dolls. And, like, because there was no tournaments because of COVID, post that ban list, even barely any locals and so forth, it's like guessing what people will bring and then guessing what's best deck and then guessing how you're going to counterplay whatever people are bringing. That's way harder. The only reason I felt safe, regardless, with picking Grand Blue or Dolls, was that even if someone picked Grand Blue or Link Joker, I was assuming that by round 3, they would have already lost to some random stuff, like, oh, Ezel, oops, guess I die. Oh, Overlord Regalia, guess I die. And so I think that is like also a pretty big factor, because the format is that open. You don't have to be that afraid of a top deck killer when there's so much rogue out there.
Okay, I guess since we're on the topics of decks, right? So we want to start from the beginning on like how did deck testing go, and then how did it become this one nightmare doll list that seemed to work very well for some people.
Well, obviously, I think it like from a lot of personal perspectives, right? It was starting from the favoritism side of things about people from the team obviously going with their personal like knowledge-based choices and like experience and understanding, and then obviously branching out, connecting ideas from there, right? So I think obviously different people here have different starting opinions, so I'll be here from that.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely agree with that. I think all of us just kind of went onto our own little avenues and kind of didn't really explore or collaborate too much. I know Solomon, as the person he is, a trader he is, he just never plays the best deck anyways. So he ends up playing Grand Blue. So I know he tests Grand Blue, so yeah, I can just leave that to him. So if Grand Blue ever does become best deck, I know who to hit up. But yeah, I think we all kind of went our own little clans, our own little ways. I went with Pelman, and other people went other ways. And then I think once upon a time, Kevin Cho decided to message me and it was like, have you tested Nightmare Doll? And I'm like, yeah, I'm testing it at the moment. What do you think of it? It's not too bad. It's pretty good. Like pretty aggro. Can beat Luard, can beat Grand Blue, can beat a whole bunch of other decks. And I'm like, I'm kind of scared of like a few decks, right? So Regalia, Overlord being the two prominent ones. How the hell do we beat it? And then Cho was like, all right, let me get back to you. And he's experimenting with a few things. And then he came back with the key component to the deck, which was Rollock. And Rollock is essentially a PG as long as your Vanguard is grade 2 and you have 1 Vanguard. And then I thought to myself, I was like, all right, this is pretty cool. Because I know that Nightmare Doll in itself is an NLK, kind of. So you can ride back down, and then it serves as a PG. And I'm like, wow, it reminds me of Boring Bermuda, where you have like 8 perfect guards, or like, multiple perfect guards, multiple G guards, and, happy days, right? I like the idea. And then Cho and I just kind of collaborated a little bit, and then, yeah, we made this thing, and it worked. So happy days.
I mean, it did pretty well, right?
I mean, we've got 2 champions here with using the Nightmare Doll deck. Do we want to hear anything from them? What's your experience in the whole tournament? Simon and Mark.
Simon, you go.
You're the first one.
Undefeated true champion.
Yes, the gate opener. That's how many years in a row?
Well, what, since 2019?
Ooh.
Wow. What value, dude.
And it started from then. So, what am I about to say?
You're so tired.
Well, yeah, it's pretty
Maybe Simon over there.
So it started off with me think of playing Regalia, right? I didn't consult. I was like, this. What am I gonna play? I was gonna play Regalia, and I made a deck, played a bit of it, tested a bit, until I asked the WCC group chat, and then Toby was like, "Hey, do you have those?" I'm like, no. So I just went and asked Derek for a deck list. He gave it to me right away, which was really cool.
What a cool
And I
guy.
looked at it.
Instant. Just like that. Bam.
I looked at it and I was pretty impressed. It had, in the structure of the deck, I really liked it right away because it consisted of all the things I would want to bring because of other decks. So I was afraid of DP, basically a lot of one-shot decks. And that that spice, that cleared the way.
I think, what's funny is I think a lot of people, still kind of question the Rollock, right? Because they're like, how does it add to your game? Because when they think of, a strategy, they're like, every piece has to come in with that strategy. Like, if you're doing, like a multi-attack, you have to play every card that helps you with that multi-attack. And running the Rollock is kind of counterintuitive that, because it's just defense, right? And when you draw it late, it doesn't really do anything. So I guess the roll, you kind of have to emphasize how good the Rollock is in the deck, because it solves a lot of issues, right?
The thing is,
right down, right?
Sorry.
Because you discard 2 cards and you're trying to guard with quality at that point.
Solon, what?
The thing with Rollock is that, sure, it doesn't actively help your game plan, but there's certain decks where if you get to the late game, you win anyway, regardless of what that grade 1 was. So, if you choose to play anything over Rollock in a deck that wins automatically on turn 5 or 6, which is like Dolls and sometimes like Grand Blue, then it's worth that not helping your game plan, because, most people aren't aware that you often lose because of things that happened on turn 1 and 3, even though that only comes to fruition on turn 4 or 5. And so, just if Dolls reaches dust, they win. Straight up. There's almost nothing you can do if they dust. And so, Lorok just ensures you get to dust. So even if that Rollock could have been another Nightmare Doll or something along those lines, or maybe a Trapezist or whatever, that doesn't matter because if you get to dust, you win anyway.
Yeah, that's definitely true. Because like I think at one stage I solidified on 8 grade 1s, but I didn't know what the last lot was. I played Trapezis, I played a bunch of other Nightmare dolls. I tried to mix it with like the Magia doll, grade 1s that came out in the V series set because they are workeroids, right? So that you can search with Marissa. But then I was like it doesn't really help because the deck itself is really fragile. So trying to find an option to be able to make it more stable and more defensive was definitely a better option.
I guess it's pretty good that Kevin suggested it, right? Like,
Yeah,
hey, buddy, like Rolex 30 goes like, wow. Yeah, and unfortunately, Kevin couldn't be here today, but you know, yeah, Kevin showed the grit, right? Thanks, buddy.
Thank you.
You're hard.
all credits to
Carry.
Right.
Thanks, Kevin.
Thanks, Kevin. Rolex King, man.
Roll King.
Mark, do you want
I
to say
really
anything?
want to point out that it's good that we are talking about this and like making it available to everyone to know because, in my opinion, Rollock is the MVP of the deck. Like,
Yeah, I think it was
all
important.
of I liked, if you look at streams and matches, everyone will be focusing on how good Alice, Ini, Leslie combo looks. That's because that's where the shiny part is, right? But no, I guess you won't realize by just looking at the game, you get to do all those things because Rollock.
That's right. I think
Value.
after I just want to bring up because of the ban list that all the hyper loops, the hyper combo decks all got cut. A lot of the players' mentality goes into the games are slower. Now we can go back into the GB 3-second stride win con decks. But that's not necessarily the case. There are still decks that are quite oppressive, and we didn't mention it before, but with the addition of Heal Guardians, now you can't completely damage deny someone. They will always be able to just ride up to 3, even with just 3 cards, play a Heal Guardian down, and just smack you to like 4 or 5. So the aggressiveness of decks is not really that much lower than like what it was before. So yeah, surviving the early game is really important, and you don't want to drop cards, just resources that you can use to attack just to guard because you didn't get anything in defensive triggers. So yeah, Rollock covers that aspect really well. It gets you to those games. It lets you execute those plans without having to dig too deep into your resources.
I mean, it's also pretty interesting that like the 2 Grand Blue players here also ran Rollock in their decks because I think it's pretty telling on how good that card actually is, right? Yeah,
It's really insane. And I think like the Grand Blue conversion rates show how important that card is. Because if you look at all 3 regions, Grand Blue was most played. And then in Asia, it had 0 tops. In Europe, it had 1 top. In America, it had 4, stronger, okay. But like, so overall, despite it being so played, if you look at past formats where Ezel was most played, you would have like 4 Ezels in every damn tournament. Or NLK was most played, it would be NLK everywhere. Here, it wasn't the case. Here, only one of the regions was actually Grand Blue converting that well. And so I think people really overrated that deck. And I think Rollock is a really big reason as to why Grand Blue actually survives some of these super fast decks that can rush you out of the game before Grand Blue even gets to plus. Because like all our plussing is in Obadiah, Ghost Chip, and Nightstorm, getting that back and all of those little plays, as well as a Protect marker, which doesn't happen on turn 2. The only plus we do on turn 2 is like Colombard Ghost Chip or something like that.
Okay. And I guess, Mark, anything you want to add apart from Rollock MVP?
Can we ban over triggers?
Yeah, man over triggers.
I think it's important to say just before we move on to the next point as well is that following that Rollock is the great sort of early game defense against some of those margins, right? And that's mainly in the fact as well, particularly in the circumstance of what's probably commonly referred to as the gatekeeper decks of the format. And that's usually the case of where this is the decks that are the most popular and most stock standard of having the opportunity to be played the most easily and the most power they can get out of that simplicity, right? So in this specific circumstance with a lot of the stuff is still unexplored, but the decks that were still sitting there were obviously the decks like Regalia and Overlord, right? They've been around for a while. Ezel as well as a point, yeah, but with the high pressure and like Vanguard threats that Regalia and Overlord specifically bring forward, I know in my personal like analysis and insight was thinking about like deck choices and things like when it came down to concepts, thinking about builds and things like that, just thinking like, can these decks properly sustain against these gatekeepers? If not, can I find a way around that with changing my build? If not, then that's probably not the avenue to go to because you need to be able to, keep up with those, trendsetter type decks and those common things. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to get to your game plan, right? So it's important to have like the deck that has that great balance of being able to do what it wants to do, but also handling the heavy hitters that can be thrown out from the format. Whether it's a thing like an Ezel as well, like with Heal Guardian specifically, obviously that's being a big help in that regard with the multi attacks there, so that's been a blessing. But other than that, though, like Overlord can still randomly just kill you, right? And like with this swinging 3 times, usually 3 crits if they're unstricken. Having access to extra defensive pieces like Rollup was like super helpful to make sure that we have like a very high chance of like making it through that, and that was a main avenue, like the early game survivability with a lot of the deck choices that would be considered. But it just fit in so well with Nightmare Doll, right? Obviously, with like having it in the early and also being able to do your plays on grade 3 right and right down to be able to utilize that from early and even into like late to end game, right? It's like at all points of the game has access to more and more defense than most decks actually get with like how their core card pool is without the Cray Elementals.
Okay, all right. I think that's pretty cool. I guess in terms of the overall meta, now that everything's finished, what do you guys think? Right? What do you guys think? Maybe this time I'll make Steven talk about his thoughts because he's the only non-Rollock player in the group. Steven, what do you think of the current meta?
I think the current meta is so diverse. You can play like so many different things. We saw a lot of different types of decks make top 8. Like Luard. That was pretty crazy, but for sure, like Grand Blue made such an impact in NA. Number Dolls made such an impact in like EU and such an impact in Asia Oceanic. Regalia definitely made an impact too, as one of the crazier decks that can pop off when your opponent is on grade 2. Probably one of the main reasons why people played Rolluck, specifically against like Overlord and Regalia, when Regalia can just straight up Marduk you when you're on grade 2. And just have a restanding Vanguard that swings twice, 5 checks, it's pretty crazy. But the meta right now is pretty diverse, but definitely for sure, after seeing Dolls and the impact that Dolls did during the whole event for BRO, is best deck in format.
Yeah. Anyone else?
By a mile.
Technically, if Mark didn't get an overtrigger, you would have won that last game, I think.
Yeah. If he didn't hit the overtrigger, but if he hit like 2 damage triggers, I think he might have been able to guard.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think we had a quick chat after the game about
Yeah.
My hand would have been maybe just enough if I hit 2 defensives or 3 defensive. I don't remember exactly now. So
Yeah, it had to be like 2 or 3 defensives.
the overtrigger kind of just sealed it out instead of
Yeah.
barely surviving, which made a huge difference.
Yeah.
Yeah, right before the event, I think my tier list was Nightmare Doll, Eradicator, Regalia, Grand Blue. And I think I spoke about that with Derek as well, in that order. But I don't know if everyone agreed with that. Maybe Eradicator is slightly worse than I thought. Maybe it's like Nightmare Doll, Genesis, Grand Blue, Eradicator, something along those lines.
Funnily enough, I was speaking to Kai this morning as well. The tier list that we were depicting before this whole thing was Nightmare Doll at the top, but then I also rated Ezel and I also rated Tachi on the same tier because Tachi can outrun Nightmare Doll if it doesn't get any sort of disruption to punish like Chelsea. So you can just randomly win with Tachi if you call out the Mercenary and just bash a few times. So coping with Tachi is significantly harder than coping with something like Regalia because you have Relock. And then Ezel is Ezel, so it can just like jump, Spearect, do its thing, Ultima, and 2019 story. Which is why I rated those two higher, but I think I lowered Tachi because I found that running to Chelsea is consistent enough to see, and you're able to recycle it. So you essentially punish the Tachi player for playing the mercenary, and then kill off their resources. So I think, at the top level, it was definitely Nightmare Doll, and for me, it was Ezel, and then everything else kind of slightly under that.
I disagreed with Ezel. I felt like it had to high roll so hard in order to make it like stand a chance, and I'm like, really? I think you're just like traumatized from when the times when it did like you're like, damn, man.
I was traumatized of NLK, all right? I was traumatized of NLK, but that didn't really happen. I just smashed NLK in the face. And
I also think as well with Ezel as well, like it's one for the fact of the jump as well, but it also really needs to see Percival to have any sort of like widespread impact of the game. If it doesn't, then that deck is kind of weak sourced, honestly, to be honest. Like the superiority is good, but like Percival at the moment is currently the backbone of that deck. Just being able to get its generation of resources and being able to actually make decent attack patterns and columns, right? Because like otherwise, without having an Aglebail on board, then like a lot of the times your whole turn is shut down by one defensive sometimes if you don't see any triggers or anything like that, right? So
I just want to mention, like, in the end, like, as good as Percival is, it doesn't replace OG Wonder Izzle. That card's just that card was the real killer.
Nut. Biggest
not
nut.
even close.
Trust me, I love Ezel, but I abandoned it. Trust me.
I was actually more scared of Riviere than Izzle, but that's because of Wrapup. So right up next.
I mean,
dude, I remember when Wrapup said like, "Oh, Riviere is so good," and then Cho believed him, and Cho played Riviere against me, and I like 3-0'd him so cleanly, like not even close. I was like, "Dude, you can take another turn, and I'll still win." And so then he just abandoned Riviere instantly.
Yeah, I mean, some of us were on Eradicate as well. How did that turn out?
Well, like I've been the only one that's been like mainly testing and playing Eradicators with this whole thing. I was wanting to sort of explore different avenues and things, and I kind of like the feel of flow of like testing out the Narukari element, and I feel like Eradicators had this like really good balance of like having this offensive opportunity and defensive plays that could utilize as well. And in comparison to say the other like forerunner of the Narukami clan, which is Vanquisher, right? Vanquisher's main thing is it saves a lot of its pieces up for turn 3. And obviously turn 4, right, with like stun burst, depending on their stage of the game, if they're like striding or whatnot. But with Eradicators, like I found the main benefit of having a lot of matchups into having a good grade 2 game. Just start off the fact that you're not giving up first right ever because your grade 2 game is so good. Where that's like committing a lot of like pressure pieces to let you gain resources, extra cards that let you gain power, and just generate more aggression and pressure to your opponent to force them to ride up to try to give you the outlet to get to, well, your main best strat in that case, which is Sunburst, right? While also on the side of the aggression, you still have defensive options. Like I think a really key and cool card that was showcased, especially on EU top card, right, was Unruly Dragon. That was the idea that I put into my deck as well. And I think that's really a solid pick, right? Because outside of the G Guardians, Unruly is just a great way to deny your opponent's plays and just to be a threatening piece on board. And you could dedicate yourself to certain levels of having a defensive play, like Cohen-Shack was an option from EU's list was running Cohen-Shack, but I wanted to run more plus and early game pieces in comparison. So the good thing about like doing stuff with Eradicators, if you want to, there's a lot of like leeway with how you want to play the game, and pretty much with this premiums in a nutshell, right? All clans are basically like that, which is a cool and awesome concept, right? There's all these diverse deck lists in themselves, right? Especially with Grand Blue. Like I don't think you would find, besides the people who actively made the same list, would have one like Grand Blue list that was exactly the same, right? They would usually be all different, and that's pretty cool concept with premium at the moment. That's pretty exciting. But yeah, I still think like Eradicators has a really good field against the majority of like the top contenders. I feel it became a lot harder with Granblue, obviously, when they like became more knowledgeable about Eradicators and started adapting to it with things like running. There's pretty much running Bell in the main deck. It was a combination of like being fearful of Narukami, so they had that option, and also like recycling their cutlasses and using Urgel as well to not just for Narukami but other decks that have disruption plays to make sure their front row is secure and their plays will not be inhibited. But still against the majority of the field, the meta, I feel like Eradicators is like still a really solid pick, and that's why us in our collective testing and everything decided that it was worthy of a higher tier pick just because it like just dealt with so many of the different areas of the what we considered meta at that time.
Yeah. I remember when we first like played Eradicator, I was so mad because it was like so simple, and you just put your pieces down and you start bashing, and your opponent like plays around it but still loses. I'm like, I hate this. It's another fucking red clan with like so much.
It feels like another like helmet clan that just drop hand and like plus and they get on it.
Definitely in the early
It felt
game, yeah.
unfair, especially when I was playing Granblue without Veil. So
Yes, and then I just put in Bell because I was so pissed.
yeah, same. And then I'm like, oh, actually, it works with Cutlass pretty well. And then that's how that deck came to fruition. But yeah, actually, Narukami is actually probably like our backup deck for a lot of us. Toby actually ended up sending me a few cards for Narukami, and we did have the deck built in Sydney. It's like over there. And then
here.
you played Dinos instead.
Yeah, I think I played Dinos. I played this versus like Nightmare Dolls and went, yeah, I'm not gonna play it. I think I'll play Dinos.
Yeah, I had Eradicator ready as well just in case. But
You would never play Red Clan.
I would never play a red clan, that's true.
Yeah. Important thing to notice as well. Yeah, important thing to notice as well that like Eradicators was like obviously in the low end of any picks in comparison. I wanted to play and you just have a chance to play it. Otherwise, I would have played Dolls because Eradicators has a really hard time against Dolls, right? Because Dolls can technically win the early game because they never have to give up the stride to be able to do that because they ride up, smash you, come back down, and like they can play through the stride phases as well, like to get to essentially dust to deny any of your plays after you potentially have things to set up to try and disrupt their turn plays. But yeah, it's just super hard, and so that's why I still think Nightmare Dolls like checks off so many different things, right? Obviously, Eradicators as well. So Eradicators has a good feel, but not as good as Nightmare Dolls.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I guess we can kind of talk about how did the event itself actually go? Like, I mean, some of you played all the regions, some of you only played one. How did it go? How did BRO go this time versus like BSFO? I guess nice comparison. Yeah.
I think like NA was a huge jump. The organizers, the event went really, really smooth. Obviously, some much better than others. I still think EU is at the top for me. EU was just well maintained, very strict on time. Like all the judging staff, all the tournament organizers, and whoever was doing all the back end stuff, amazing work. But otherwise, huge upgrade, and I love the stream. I gotta give props to whoever created the stream template. That was insane. It looked so clean, and the fact that you guys can control the cards to feature on the stream, which wasn't there for BSFO, that was really cool. And being able to use deck log to show the decks of the players, feature their like social tags and stuff like that. I think that stream was a huge upgrade to BSFO. But yeah, amazing event.
Yeah, and again, to think that they come up with all of this in like half a year, I think that's like the craziest thing about it. And I hope they can keep it up. And we'll see more of these events. But yeah, all events ran really well. Love the team, love the staff and who runs everything. Social media going up crazy. Everyone's pretty happy, and the stream chat was pretty alive. Good to see that.
Yep.
Yeah, I think like having like the BSFO like was the first obviously big official online event that Bushiroad did. So they had that obviously as the the proving ground, right, to try and like explore the core concept of what remote fight is and how it's going to look like in a major sort of fold, right, the major tournament. And they took those good experiences and the bad experience or the hard things to sort of manage, and they improved on them, and they became like come through even better this time around, right? I think for the like pretty much near the majority of nearly everyone that played had a really good experience with how the tournament itself ran, and how they managed things. So yeah, I think most if not all of us in the team are very pleased with how things went too.
Okay, that's good. It's good to
For
hear.
time, ban Qatar. Highlander should not be a thing online.
I think that there is a thing in Wise, right, Mark, about cards that go.
One of the things that Kai and Mr. Bandlist Ken has talked about during his videos about bandlists and such, that one of the reasons Bushiroad would ban a card is that it makes games unnecessarily long. And I think Katir happens to be one of those cards. It may or may not be a super broken card. We don't know. It's a good card, but a lot of people like it. But Bushiroad doesn't just ban cards simply because they are broken. They do ban cards for other reasons, and taking a lot of time is one of those reasons. And there is a very good example from years back in Wise where there was a very simple effect, but the effect makes it such that both players has to spend quite a lot of time thinking about how to apply it, and therefore it made the games just go too long for Bushiroad's liking, and that card was banned, and I'm not 100% sure it's still on the ban list at the moment. And I can see Katir being banned for a similar reasoning.
But it's only online where the problem really like reaches its peak. I think in real life it's fine, but because you do like the shuffle, 1, 2, 3, and like showing the cards and like holding them up to the camera and all of that, it's just it always goes to time. Very often also over time, purely because of the online thing. So I wonder if they're like willing to do a different ban list for online games. It would be very weird, but I don't know.
I mean, like, I just want to point out, I think online as well, you do get more time, do you? I think you get like 5 minutes extra for BRO. I'm not 100% sure, right? But we do have a perfectly good Vanguard example on something taking too much time, and that is Dorian, right? Double Dorian. They said it takes too much time, so they banned that, and I think that takes less time than using Cotier like X times in one turn. Yeah.
I think before that as well, like something that became properly relevant was Refrost. Actually, Refrost I think was pretty key, like pretty core central concept of like the card that they decided like enough was enough in terms of dealing with time rewards and everything, and especially the time when Angel Feather was at a point of not being a top contender in any aspect, right? It was always a deck that was decent and good. It had like the defensive plays in the time of like Gavriel and the mid G. But even so, and just like watching the tournaments of people looping Refrosses in their deck and making sure that like they still had the Refrost to have in hand to access, because you could never be perfectly sure with how the ruling stated that interaction had to go, and Bushiroad decided enough was enough and limited it to 1, so it couldn't possibly be looped anymore. So I think like in that sort of like Bushiroad mentality understanding, that I could see similar reasoning be applied to Katir in that aspect, honestly.
I mean, I think Kelvin is pretty traumatized with playing Angel Feather in a time-restrained environment, especially in our team league during Continental.
Oh yeah, that was a big moment. That's a big wake-up moment. Yeah, that said, though, I still go to time with my Grumble deck every now and then, so I think I need to speed it up.
I mean, you wonder why Asia didn't run any Angel Feather at the time.
Yeah.
Double loss kind of just is the perfect reason why.
Yeah.
Okay, I guess those are kind of the main topics raised now. Does anyone have any other topics they want to raise about like anything, right? About BRO Premium?
Over triggers.
I was about to say the same thing too. That was like a big nutshell we've missed so far. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I
mentioned it briefly.
I feel like everyone should already know, right? It just I mean,
it always has to be accentuated
many times.
Yeah, and like it's so like in the face of everyone, time after time again. Like there's circumstance in like at least half of the stream games, right, where like an over trigger has been a like varying factor. Like even against like my opponent in round 1 of like EU stream, the only reason I managed to get past that round is because I hit my over trigger on 6 when I really shouldn't have been able to go past, right?
Hey Kai, didn't you also hit an over trigger on?
I mean, I'm not gonna lie, guys. The only time in my life I've ever hit a 6 damage over trigger, even in testing, right? I mean, you guys all know because we sometimes test, right? Has been on that stream match. So I don't know, man. I don't know.
Fine. They're fine. It never happens, bro. They're clearly balanced and dude.
Yeah,
you
but-
say like, oh yeah, but we all agree already. But there's still people arguing for them all the damn time.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
like,
It just feels so wrong, like to see like all these great players on stream and they just have their entire game stolen from one card. I think that happened to Living Proofs on GB8, or was that something else?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it did.
GVA turn.
Oh no! I was like, I was so excited to see how many attacks can he do that turn, but yeah,
Wow,
that got
dude.
shot a bit early.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That's. Anyone
I
once
think heals are all broken, to be honest.
three heals.
I
True.
hit an over trigger against Kelvin, and he ended up triple healing that whole turn. Hit a heal on 4, and then hit a heal on 6 and 7. I think you should bet heals too. Heals are over.
I mean,
Well, technically, if you didn't get that over trigger, then I wouldn't have healed, and I would just guard it normally, right?
Yeah, but you know, it's like hitting a crit, right? But then you healed.
Yeah, crazy.
I mean, Kelvin's deck was compressed, man. What can you
I
say?
know.
That's what Grambley
So I
does.
triggered 5 blanks the previous turn.
I think overall, there's a pretty big consensus on people who watch those games that over triggers are an issue. And I guess in the previous format that was streamed, one, there were actually less stream games last time, right? And two, the game ended way more quicker, like last time compared to now. So the overall impact, right?
Honestly, I think over triggers were actually less of a problem last time in Premium in comparison to now. Because at least back then, there was infinite loops that could do infinite power to not worry about over triggers in the first place. Therefore, meaning that their impact was lessened in comparison to this format.
Yeah.
With nearly no deck
around
can
it,
actually get
bro.
over.
There was a way to defeat over trigger back then.
There was actually a way to play around it back then, surprisingly
dude,
enough.
play
Whereas
around
now-
it. Easy. Just go to infinite power.
You just mad because you didn't play the best deck in the meta.
Right, exactly. And so if we don't have that option anymore, then I don't see why we have to keep the option where decks are literally hitting a brick wall where they can't reach over 100 million power threshold, right? Unless they start doing other access to do that, but I really would want to remove over triggers before that happens.
Going infinite.
But Toby is saying that we should start working on finding infinite loops again.
His true
Bring
passion.
back Taro.
Oh.
We need Tanba back.
Wow. Okay. Well, hot take, right? Well, not really a hot take, since I think most people are in agreement. But yeah, apart from over triggers, anything else? Open deck format. How did people think of that? Was that?
Oh, actually, I do. We touched on this, but I do really want to say, good job to the Visual English division on bringing deck lock to English, so that it became available this time. It's such a amazing platform. It's very well received when it came out in Japanese, and they did a very good job porting it over to English as well. I mean, there might be minor criticisms on some of the cards having a tiny image for some reason.
Like Unruly Dragon.
But that's mostly mitigated anyway because you can click on the card and go to the TCG website
Yeah.
to read the text
Yeah,
anyway.
there's still links.
And it's just so handy compared to having to fill a PDF. I think Kelvin and Solom were the ones who benefited the most. They literally have like 50 different cards in the deck.
I had 27 and Solom had 26. So on average, our card count is less than 2. We had less than 2 copies of each cards on average. It's like 1.9.
I mean, the crazy thing also is they updated a lot of the old images. If you guys didn't know,
Oh, yes.
back then the old images was literally very low quality, but now a lot of them are now high quality, or at least decent quality. So it's
Yeah.
it's definitely a plus. It's definitely, you wouldn't want to know how many times I copied an image from the site, and it's like 6 pixels, right? It's so
Yeah.
now it's really good.
I do have to say, Open Deck is actually a massive game changer, and almost no one seemed to use it. Like, the ability to look at your opponent's deck and go, oh, you're playing this? Guess I'll do this play differently. Like, for example, when I played against Derek, I looked at his deck, I saw, oh, you don't play Formido? Awesome, I'll just put my Honolly down, and I don't have to, like, protect it with Urula, because you can't kill it anyway. And, like, of course you can still Beatrix, but still, like, the ability to know what your opponent can and can't counter is so big, it's actually insane. And I was mind blown by the amount of people who literally didn't bother opening it. Like, so many people just didn't care.
I want to add to that too. It's a philosophy that is used also in Pokemon TCG. So in open deck list, in Pokemon you always had to run a switch, whereas in closed deck you don't. And the reason for that is if your opponent knows you play a switch, then they can promote a card to not be targeted, because then if you play a switch, then you can swap your active Pokemon out. And it's the same concept with Vanguard too, because I remember I think one of the decks that I tested, and I think one of the decks I also played during one of my rounds, he played some like weird one-off, and I was like, what the hell is this? So I checked it up, and it had some weird interaction with like how his deck worked, and I was like, oh, okay. So I kind of like connected the dots, and I'm like, okay, so I just don't promote this card, and I just don't play this card, and it's so important. Like Solom said, I didn't play Formido, and it changes the way you play. So that concept with Pokemon, applying it to Vanguard as well, in a closed deck format, like you can opt to run like lots of other techs, as opposed to running ones that are, you know, fully compliant to, like, for example, Formido. I would have run Formido. Well, I didn't run Formido, but now I would. But in a closed deck format, I wouldn't. Just because of that fact, yeah.
I mean, I used it as well during the few games I played. I think against that Great Nature that was featured, looked at his deck and I was like, hang on, there's no Mary Martins. So I don't have to worry, right? Just attack. Just attack. Don't have to think about it. I think another Gear Chronicle when I face, I'm like, oh, this is how many grade 4s he has in the deck. This is how much he can actually play the grade 2 game. And then just kind of go from there. So reading decks is actually really good tech.
I mean, there are like very simple ones, like, oh, my opponent's not playing Heal Guardians. Guess he's getting 0 damage to a grade 3.
That didn't
Don't even get me started. Yo, you know what? NA got their shipment late for Heal Guardians. So when you played NA and you notice that you look at their deck list and you see that they're not running Heal Guardians, you already know it's time to just bash face if you're playing a deck like Regalia. I don't know if you guys saw, but it was on stream. I was facing a Luard player. It was very unfortunate for him, but I kind of just swung and I flipped a gold star. He didn't play any Heal Guardians, just rushed him down, and it was the end. That was it. Like, the knowledge that you have when someone doesn't play Heal Guardians, absolutely insanity, man.
I mean, hang on. Speaking of Heal Guardians, your list wasn't running any Heal Guardians as well, right?
Yeah. Who needs Heal Guardians when you always go first, and you're the deck that no one ever challenges to play grade 2 game. So you always just ride up to 3 first, you know what I'm saying? But overall, I think the addition of Heal Guardians is a must. I made a mistake on my end, and I should have included them. Would have made my trip towards second place a lot easier. Definitely should say.
You wanted to play them, right? You couldn't.
Yeah, I wanted to, couldn't. The cutoff time was a little too strong. The cutoff time, where they let you change your deck list, is a little strong.
Yeah, I think as well, just like it's like nearly entirely playing a new format in itself, right? Because like this is the first sort of year we've sort of had to get adjusted and used to this this formatting of having this all new allotment of information, right? Like in normal tournament scenarios, right? Especially in like the early rounds, you'd be going in blind and having to rely on personal, like player-based sort of research and information about like knowing like certain people about what they would be playing, or eventually over the tournament, right? Sort of gathering information and data and sort of picking up what's going on in the room, seeing the top tables and everything, and finding information from there. And even so, not knowing everything and trying to gather that data, right? And like having this just completely turns out in the head, right? You have completely open book. Blanket information about exactly what ratios, what aspect of that deck is, and how to effectively look at that and gauge how you're going to deal with that. I think it's really powerful, and like I think if this format like is to continue in this way, if we still have these remote fights and such, that I recommend utilizing that to the best of your ability, because it's like the most amazing information to have if you're trying to make sure that you play correctly into any deck, right?
Okay. Yeah, it's true. It's a different format. And you guys kind of have to adapt to it, right? You know, as a player, you just have to adapt and learn to the format. That's what kind of separates just I guess your normal player and like a slightly better player. Right? Okay. Apart from that, anything else, guys? Before we wrap it up.
Let's add something on.
Yeah.
I also really like that it's open deck format because it also prevented cheating as well. There were occasions I thought if the deck has such and such card, it would help them and so on. And because that it's open deck, I could clearly check all my opponent's effects, make sure there wasn't any additional cards, making sure that's how the effect also works as well.
Yeah, that's big.
That helped me a lot because I haven't checked out some cards clearly. Like when I saw Bell, I was like, huh. Oh, that's for Narukami.
One thing I was going to say as well, maybe like we've been talking about open deck lists and we're kind of looking at it from a competitive perspective, but the fact that deck block is available is just a very handy tool for, particularly for the online format as well, where I remember very clearly for BSFO, I had to be going to the Vanguard website to look up cards whenever I saw a new card that I wasn't sure what the text was. And this time, all I had to do was just literally click on the picture and it shows up for me. It's such a handy tool. You don't even spend time asking your opponent, what does your card do, X and Y. And you know, we know that online tournaments already take longer than usual. So it's just a good tool to help reduce that unnecessary time.
Yeah, especially like trigger ratios. Like you go like, oh, Steam Maiden, man, blah, blah. What is that? And then you have to like look up, it's a draw trigger. Wait, is it a crit? Because everything PDF, like it took a century. You can't know all the names of all the triggers.
No, and that's if they like typed everything. But yeah, I couldn't imagine like open deck with and Richard Peters like, oh, here's my deck list. Have a
Yo, man,
nice
some people
week.
just got the craziest chicken scratch, man.
Oh god. So yeah, deck log, best thing since sliced bread.
Okay. All right.
Kagura, right? Every single name. Heavenly Dragonic Empire.
Oh, yeah, you don't
God.
have to type that anymore, right? Or write
Yeah,
that.
yeah. Gone are the days.
Okay. All right, I think that's a pretty good time to wrap it up then. I guess anyone, we'll just go through. Do you guys just want to have any shout outs from Derek, top to bottom, right?
To Kevin Cho, my boy, collaborated on the full Night Medal list, so all credit goes to you for the roll-up component and collaborating with everything. So I think everyone appreciates Kevin Cho at the moment, so definitely to him. And yeah, just to everybody that I versed throughout the day, all the judging staff, tournament organizers, everyone behind the scenes, and yeah, just all the people viewing around the world, appreciate your support. And yeah, we have V Premium and Standard coming soon, so much more to come.
Wow.
Kelvin?
He just congratulated the whole world. I don't know who to congratulate anymore.
Your mom, your dad, your grandma.
Yeah.
Remember, guys.
I've been able
Cardfight
play.
consulting. We need to
Oh,
go
yeah.
outside the Earth.
Yeah.
And to go beyond Kelvin.
So yeah, big thanks to definitely like the boys at WCC. Without them, I would just be a washed up Vanguard player. So thank you for
That's
the
me.
consultations. And all the traumatizing experience with Narukami that made me pick the bell and the cutlass build. And Solomon should have told me if you're gonna play Grumbly earlier.
What are the collab, man? The collab.
But yeah, no. Big shout outs also to the Bushiroad stuff. I think that they made such a great event this time. It blew out of all expectations, and love to join more events like this. Oh, and having 4 separate weekends for 4 separate games is amazing.
Oh yeah.
If no one has mentioned that yet, just not have to worry about 2 formats per weekend. Absolute godsend. So thank you for that.
Mark?
Yeah, shout out to Cho as well. Without him, this list may not have existed. I wouldn't have a deck to play. Wouldn't have.
Great nature.
Let's not talk about that. And today wouldn't have happened. And thanks to all you guys who are on WCC. Good times testing. And thanks to Bushiroad as well. Good event. Loved it. Hope there's more to come.
Simon?
I also thank Cho for creating this list. I thank Derek Dow for the consultation.
The consultation.
Hey man, WCC, right? We can talk you about our
And you became world champion, and now you're playing dolls, and you also won. So maybe you should
I
ask
don't
me
think I
for
wanna
your first time what you want to play,
Right.
and then I'll tell you.
what am I playing next?
Yeah, it's like Simon's like a machine. It's like this monster. Just you throw the best deck at him, and he'll play it to the fullest.
Yeah,
I mean, we were known as Wrapup Cardfight Consulting, and I guess we can attest the consulting works, guys. It's just read our reviews.
Sign up now for 3 easy payments of 997.
Look at this guy down in the middle.
accepting in Bitcoin and Dowcoin
That's
and
right.
Chobucks.
And
Chobucks.
Chobucks.
I mean, you can't buy knowledge, but you can. So why wait? You know.
And also I would like to thank 2 friends, Daniel Tan and Eli. They were the friends that lent me the cards. And another friend that doesn't want to be mentioned, he tested a lot with me. He's currently in China. Yeah, so there was a lot of time I spent during this week and last week doing all these preparations for this event. I also like to thank all that helped, all that supported, and all the organizers really for organizing and making it run so smoothly.
All right, cool. Sol?
So you can't see it, but off screen there's Noman standing with a gun to my head. So first I need to shout out Noman for 15 minutes. He said that he will test with me for many, many games as long as I top so I can get him the clout. So here we are. He's getting the clout. He's the first shout out. And then, of course, the rest of WCC, we did a lot of really cool testing. The organizers, the opponents, also a local friend of mine. Basically, no one got a job at one point, sadly, and so he could no longer test.
Oh no! Disaster!
So yeah, then my local friend Bram, also known as Radiant Vanguard, picked up Noman's slack after him as well.
Steven?
First off, I'd like to thank Albert Huang, fellow WCC member, helped me, choose Regalia. You already know what type of player I am. I just love to flip gold stars. Love to just run face with my Tachikaze run in the past. Shout outs to Kevin Cho again, of course, putting me through the Iron Man, getting me ready for the whole tournament, telling me about the whole decks. Shout outs to my two friends who actually lent me all the cards. yes, I don't own these SP Minervas. Chris Koo and Javon Watson, not. Also shout outs to all WCC. You know, you guys prepped me literally right before we played the tournament. Kicked my ass, so I was prepared to get my ass whooped in the tournament. And big shout outs to all the Bushiroad staff for having such a great event.
Cool. And Toby?
Yeah, again, just like to thank the members who are here right now. Like Kevin Cho for a lot of the core concepts and for his run in the tournament, did extremely well there. The others that participated as well, just to have a great showing with Wrapup, with Tyler as well. They couldn't be here. The rest of the team who supported us in chat as well, who couldn't play this weekend, Albert, Noman, Cam, and such. I also just want to thank like majority of the player base as well for the game, because especially in AO, in the premium aspects, our participation rate was like more than 3 times the size it was last time, and that's a huge and amazing improvement, right? And that just goes to show the level of investment players are willing to come into the game again, especially when they saw that Bushiroad actually is looking to look at the health of the game and the format in a positive light, right? And actually make good waves of motion. So it's a good step into seeing things, and hopefully will continue in the future. And I hope that continues on as well with like B&D as well, that they upped the player caps for a reason, right? They wanted to like have the option for a lot more people to come in, and I think before the time this video will probably go live, you'll still be able to do V Premium and or Core Standard. So I hope to see a lot more people for those formats too, compared to what there was last time, because the more players invested into the game, the better it is for everyone, right? For Bushiroad, for the players itself, it's just good around all around, right? So just thanks again to the staff as well for Bushiroad for hosting the event in the first place, and helping things run as smoothly as they can, to like invest everything they can into like the stream, the tournament itself, the staff. Yeah, it's just really great. So thanks again.
I do have another shout out, one last shout out, and it's to Kelvin right here. We go way back. We go back to my first Worlds in 2017. Well, actually, the regional to qualify for Worlds. I kicked his ass with ZTB, and then the next year I kicked him again with NLK Mirror. So I guess he got sick of it and then decided to hit double heel against my overtrigger and then kicked me in the ass. So I think our rivalry goes quite far, if I have to say 4 years. So it's great to be able to play on stream to the world one of the most legendary games I've ever played in my Vanguard career. So definitely shout out to you, and yeah, just well played in all respects, to be honest. So
the pleasure is mine, man. And,
it
I was so glad that game was on stream. That's probably the game of the year for me, and nothing will beat it, I think.
So, in conclusion, Grand Blue best deck.
Oh, hell yes!
And Mark.
Derek, I think it was all because your chicken meal wasn't as good as Kelvin's.
Yeah. My chicken katsu sando wasn't as good as his KFC.
Yeah, I know, right?
I mean,
My KFC next time.
technically there's like 2 rivalries, right? We've got Derek and Kelvin, and kind of Solomon and Mark, right? They managed to face each other in top 8 quite a bit.
We have a fun fact, right? They share a birthday.
True. Big true, yes. They also share their favorite clan, which is Great Nature, right? Maybe not anymore.
Who?
Okay, yeah, I think it's a pretty fun coincidence, and their games are always very interesting. Either they're very good, or they're very jank. Yeah,
Very extreme, either way.
very.
So for those who didn't know, well, we did tweet about it, but last time when I faced Solom in top 8, that was EU. I was Grey Stock for, I think I had the GS 4 times, was it? And I finally got my turn, and I had to do my combo, and then turns out Solom went through about 30 cards in his deck and never saw a heal. Yeah, so that was some insane bad luck on both sides. And then this time, that was on stream and for the whole world to see, Solom got a crit overtrigger, Then I got an over trigger on the next turn. And then we got a whole bunch of other triggers following up. And that game was just full of triggers.
My Honolulu was in damage. The one card like that shouldn't have gone.
I
And then
think
you got
it's
the other trigger, the shield down.
Yeah, but by that time I didn't have damage, so I couldn't lily it out, and my rear guards were in front because I had to push. So like, it was just awkward.
I think it's just fitting as well that the two sides of those kind of rivalry on like one screen to each other. We have like
True.
the 2 here and the 2 there.
Okay.
So it's not planned, guys. This was not planned.
It's all alpha. It's all alphabetical
Yeah,
order, guys. I guess I'll finish up. Since I guess someone mentioned we already thanked everyone in this world. I guess we've thanked the alternate universe WCC, right? DWCC, conspiracies. But I just to be serious. Thank you everyone. Thanks for coming. Thank you Steven, especially you for coming in early in the morning, and thanks Simon. For also waking up very early in the morning as well to join. Thanks to everyone else making their time. Thanks to the 2 people who couldn't make it. Wrap, just without you, WCC wouldn't be as it is. Thanks Kevin Cho as well. I mean, GOAT, man. You're the GOAT, dude. That's right, guys. Awesome.
Oh yeah, that's the Korean
Oh,
art.
yeah.
Oh, is it?
How do you do?
Is it? And thanks.
I know this
thanks.
from my girlfriend.
Well, thanks to everyone else who actually just plays Vanguard. Thanks to coming on, watching us, watch this show, subscribers and all that, and thanks to all the staff making BRO happen. BRO is not ended though, even though we make it sound like BRO has ended. There are still 3 more weekends, so get your game on, I guess. Register. There's a bunch of time.
Yo, don't copyright that, man. That's from Yu-Gi-Oh.
Wrong franchise, crew.
Guys, premium is just the warming up.
Don't worry, this isn't the official stream, so this VOD won't get cancelled. All right?
Yeah, describe the Yu-Gi-Oh in his background.
Thanks to the rest of the WCC guys as well, who didn't get to play. But even Albert, in Cam, Newman, all hung around during the weekends. Really cool, and the other guys who just couldn't make it. That's life, right? That's life. Things happen. So yeah, thanks for everyone, and I guess that's kind of it. Thanks to all the staff. Everyone's been thanking, but it's just been a really good time. We had lots of fun. Probably the best weekend so far for WCC in a while, right? Yeah. So I guess it's good. It's good. I guess everyone, say your byes. And that's right. And I guess we'll see you guys next time, and at BRO as well.